Hey, this is Mike with Riding in the Ozarks, where we talk riding, rallies, gear, and wrenching. Today, I want to have a conversation with you about stopping and riding in the center of the lane. It's January 3rd, and a couple days ago we did a ride on New Year's Day. It's called the Frosty Balls Ride. And one of the persons in that ride is still learning to ride. They're new. They were on a group ride. And they rode single file, and they stayed pretty much in the center of their lane. And they did fine. That was okay. The bike behind them gave them plenty of room because they were riding single file. They kind of stayed the 2 seconds back. And I don't have a problem with that. I personally, think it's safer to ride in the right or left tire track. I think you find more debris like boards and other things in the center of the lane because they don't get kicked off the road because they are not in the tire track. Now you do tend to find dead animals more in the tire track, but those are usually pretty easy to spot coming up, and you can adjust for those, and a lot of times they're already all flattened out anyway. So if you do run over it a little bit, it's not the biggest thing in the world unless it's a fresh kill. I have also seen comments in videos that are put out by other YouTubers where they talk about when you pull up behind a car at a stoplight, not to park dead center behind the center of that car, to park to one side or the other. That's the way I learned. That's the way I do it. That's the way I teach it, is to be, when you pull up at an intersection at a stoplight behind another vehicle, I tend to pull up kind of where they can see me in their mirrors on the right side or the left side. And at the last second, I kind of angle the bike to the left or right, whichever side I'm on, so that if I think someone behind me is not going to stop in time, all I've got to do is let the clutch out and take off, and I'm already pointed down beside the vehicle that I'm behind. So I can just kind of swerve around that vehicle and get around them. A friend of mine told me the reason he parks dead center when he's riding solo behind a vehicle is because he's had people try and creep in from the side and get into the lane with him. I've never had that happen. I ride in the Midwest. We don't have lane splitting. Bikes shouldn't be riding between vehicles. We don't share lanes with vehicles here in this state. Maybe that happens more often with drivers in other states, maybe even in our area, but they're used to it if they come here from California or somewhere else. I'm in, the Midwest. And we don't have the traffic issues that they have in other states. And I understand, why they may have it in California. I've never ridden there. I'm not in that situation. I'm not going to judge them there for that. But it's not necessary. And where I live, we don't have enough traffic at a stoplight that cars and motorcycles need to be sharing lanes. So I'm against that, at least in this area. I know I've seen comments on YouTube where people from other countries say it's part of the driving culture there, where motorcycles and cars share lanes and they're conscientious of each other, and it's not uncommon, and they have lane splitting and things like that. So maybe I'm just biased and set in my ways based on the area I ride in, and maybe that's the key, is be aware of how traffic tends to act and patterns they have in the areas that you are riding. If you're riding in California because you want to go do the coastal highway or something, you may need to be prepared for that and be able to adjust your riding style to fit those needs. But the other thing I wanted to talk about on this New Year's Day ride we did was the one lady who's a fairly new rider was riding single file. She stayed in the center of her lane. The bike behind her gave her 2 second gap, but he did not pick a line and stay with it. He went from the right edge to the left edge on curves that he didn't need to. He used the whole lane. And That's okay if you need to, but we were in a group, we were maintaining a good safe speed. The new rider was maintaining her line in the center of the road just fine and didn't need to use the whole lane. The guy behind her didn't need to use the whole lane, but he chose to. And the problem that created was the bikes behind him were all riding staggered. That was the formation. And so he would be on the right-hand side going into a curve, and he would come all the way across to the left. And the bike on the left side had a 1 second gap with him, because that's kind of the rule of speed when you're riding staggered. 2 seconds for the bike directly in front of you, 1 second for the bike that's adjacent to you in the other riding path, but in front of you. So when he'd come across that lane in front of that other rider, he cut that reaction speed down to 1 second. Well, then that rider would slow down, trying to give himself more room, but then he's ending up beside the biker that was behind him, and it causes a chain reaction back down the line where everybody's got to suddenly start slowing down, and then it throws the whole group off. So if you need to use the whole lane because you can't maintain your path at the speed they're going, then do so. I don't want anyone to ride faster than they're capable of. If they need the whole lane, take it. But if you're the guy behind them, then just back and give yourself 2 seconds at all times if you see that pattern with that person continuing to take up the whole lane. Don't ride up in the straightaway and get in the staggered formation and be 1 second off of them, and then the curve have to back off, and then keep repeating that pattern, because you're throwing all the riders behind you off, and you're creating more potential for an accident. I once had a discussion with a highway patrolman, and he said the majority of the accidents he worked occur because of vehicles driving at different speeds. One person passing a slower vehicle, one person driving faster than the vehicles in front of them, and they run up on them too quick and don't react. Things like that. So maintaining a good steady speed for the group and for the appropriate speed for the difficulty of the road is important. And constantly changing that and adjusting that because of a rider changing their position in the group is a problem. It can create a problem, and it can cause someone to end up having an accident, and nobody wants that. So just think about these things and be careful. And if you observe a rider in front of you taking up the lane consistently, the whole lane from right to left and back and forth, just back off and give them their 2 seconds. The rest of the group's going to be fine with that. Don't keep closing in, backing off, closing in, backing off, because that makes a chain reaction when you're riding in a group that makes the whole group have to react. And when 12 people have to react instead of just you, there's more likely to be a mistake made. So think about those things. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you do the YouTube thing, go out and subscribe to my channel. Hit that bell if you want to be notified when I drop new content. And as always, thanks for your support. Be safe and keep on riding.